Secretary of State Mike Pompeo became the first top American diplomat to visit an Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank, as the State Department, in a major policy shift, announced that products from the settlement can be labeled "Made in Israel." The two moves reflected the Trump administration's acceptance of Israeli settlements, which the Palestinians and most of the international community view as a violation of international law and a major obstacle to peace. Pompeo also announced that the U.S. would brand the international Palestinian-led boycott movement against Israel as anti-Semitic and bar any groups that participate in it from receiving government funding. It was not immediately clear which groups would be affected by the move. The kingdom's ambassador to the U.S. said Saudi Arabia's sole goal in Yemen is to reach a political solution that would restore a peaceful and prosperous state. Princess Rima bint Bender said Saudi Arabia has participated in every international negotiation and has honored every UN agreement aimed at achieving peace in the war-torn country. Despite this, Houthi aggression has not stopped, and the militia responded to a ceasefire announced in April with a rain of ballistic missiles on these soils, the ambassador told the Arab-US Policymakers Conference. As winter nears and coronavirus cases surge across the Middle East, the regional director for the World Health Organization said that the only way to avoid mass deaths is for countries to quickly tighten restrictions and enforce preventive measures. In a press briefing from Cairo, Ahmed El-Mandari, director of WHO's Eastern Mediterranean region, which comprises most of the Middle East, expressed concern that countries in the area were lowering their guard after tough lockdowns imposed earlier this year. The fundamentals of pandemic response, from social distancing to mask wearing, are still not being fully practiced in our region, he said, adding that the result is apparent throughout the region's crowded hospitals. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said Turkey's rhetoric on Cyprus is aggravating tensions with the European Union, and Ankara must understand that its behavior is widening its separation from the 27-nation bloc. He was referring to comments by Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, who called for an equal two-state solution in Cyprus during a visit earlier this week to the breakaway Turkish Cypriot north of the island. Erdogan also said Turkey and North Cyprus would no longer tolerate what he called diplomacy games in an international dispute over rights to offshore resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. Lebanon is currently experiencing a gradual deterioration towards the abyss in light of its political stalemate, financial and economic hardship, and the lack of a support program from the International Monetary Fund, as the required reforms have not yet been achieved. Thursday saw a sudden increase in the dollar exchange rate, which reached 8,200 Lebanese pounds on the black market before dropping slightly. The rate had dropped to under 7,000 Lebanese pounds less than a month ago, when Saad al-Hariri was assigned to form a new government based on the French Rescue Initiative on October 22nd. A group of U.S. citizens from El Bireh in Palestine have protested against U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to Pascot, an Israeli settlement. The outgoing Trump-era official made an unprecedented and controversial visit to a Pascot winery that last year renamed one of their brands after Pompeo in a show of gratitude. In addition to the West Bank settlement visit, Pompeo plans to travel to the occupied Golan Heights that Israel annexed in 1981. In a deeply controversial move last year, the Trump administration formally recognized Israeli sovereignty over the occupied region. A nasal spray that can prevent coronavirus infections and transmissions has been developed by a team of scientists at the University of Birmingham in the UK. The study backing the spray, which is awaiting peer review, claims it catches and neutralizes the virus in the nose, where it can be destroyed by blowing through the nostrils or swallowing. Scientists said as the spray envelopes the virus, any particles that are passed on to another person through sneezing or coughing are less likely to result in transmission. With the coronavirus surging out of control, the nation's top public health agency pleaded with Americans not to travel for Thanksgiving and not to spend the holiday with people from outside their household. It was some of the firmest guidance yet from the government on curtailing traditional gatherings to fight the outbreak. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued the recommendations just 1 week before Thanksgiving, at a time when diagnosed infections, hospitalizations and deaths are skyrocketing across the country. Domestic passenger traffic in Riyadh's main airport has returned to nearly 60% capacity after closing for more than 2 months during the summer. All flights in, out and within Saudi Arabia were grounded in March as part of the kingdom's policies to help curb the spread of the coronavirus. While international flights will not fully resume until January, domestic flights restarted at the end of May. At least 60,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots will be provided in public locations across Saudi Arabia as part of a Communications and Information Technology Commission initiative. Hospitals, malls, public parks and the 2 holy mosques will be among locations to get free Wi-Fi access, the Saudi press agency reported on Sunday. The initiative includes free access to the public Wi-Fi network for each service provider for up to 2 hours per day in a number of Saudi cities. Melatonin is used as a dietary supplement to promote sleep and get over jet lag, but nobody really understands how it works in the brain. Now, researchers at the University of Connecticut's School of Medicine show that melatonin helps worms sleep too, and they suspect they've identified what it does in humans. Our bodies produce melatonin in darkness. It's technically a hormone, but you can readily buy melatonin as a supplement in pharmacies, nutrition stores, and other retail shops. It's widely used by adults and often by children as well. Melatonin binds to melatonin receptors in the brain to produce its sleep-promoting effects. The 2 keyholes for melatonin are called MT1 and MT2 in human brain cells, but scientists didn't really know what happens when the keyhole is unlocked. A new species of monkey with only a few hundred animals have been discovered in Myanmar, the researchers behind this rare discovery announced. The small primate, whose body measures between 50 and 60 centimeters, was named Papa Langor by researchers from the German Primate Center and the environmental NGO Fauna and Flora International, which identified it after long research. The new species has been identified by comparing the DNA taken from the droppings of different populations of trachypechis, wild or in captivity, and historical specimens kept in British, German, American and Singapore museums. UNICEF said that the COVID-19 pandemic could cause irreversible harm to the health, education and nutrition of children around the globe. The UN agency sounded the alarm in a new report on the status of children worldwide during the pandemic, calling for urgent action to close education and health gaps. The report, which surveyed 140 countries, found that around 1/3 of countries reported at least 10% decline in health services coverage, including vaccinations and maternal health services.